So I just Googled paint protection for cars. Opticoat came up first, or at least the top, and I thought, oh, well, that's pretty cool. So I clicked on it. I looked at the website, and the website it wasn't very good. It was kind of clunky. So I called it, and Maggie answered. Maggie, she's not, of course, long gone from there. I think she retired and moved away with her husband. But she sounded like the lady from Beetlejuice, the caseworker, Juno. You remember
Okay.
with the slit in her throat? That's what Maggie sounded like. The real deep, gritty, raspy voice. And she's smoking, and then the smoke comes out of her slit in her neck. The first Beetlejuice, not the new one. And super nice. And she's like, "Hey, we have a Opticoat Pro program," because I saw Opticoat 2.0, which was the consumer version, and then they said we have Opticoat Pro, and it was just Opticoat Pro. There was no Pro Plus. So I was like, "Oh, this." I mean, it looked legitimate. As soon as I saw Opticoat Pro, it was. I just knew.
Hi, friends. Welcome to the Opti Coat Podcast, where we share stories from detailing professionals and highlight cutting edge products, techniques, and tools that'll help your detailing to accelerate into the future. Wherever you're listening or watching this podcast, please follow, like, subscribe, and share with a friend. I hope you enjoy the conversation. Okay, hey, welcome back to another episode of the Opti Coat Podcast. I'm Jacob, and we're joined today with none other than our co-host, Tug Banker, joining us from Hanover, Pennsylvania. How's it going today, Tug?
Live from the wash bay. Good, Jacob. How are you?
I'm doing good. We thought we'd take an episode and just say, hey, meet the hosts. Who the heck are we? Why are we doing this? Well, why did the podcast start, and where are we located? Maybe how we got connected into Optimum, what that's looked like, and how that's changed our shops and our careers. So I wanted to start, Tug, by asking you the question we love to ask all of our hosts
Hmm.
or our guests, and now our host. How did you get into detailing, and how's that led to where you are now? Maybe share some stories about connecting with Optimum and Opticode along the way.
Yeah, so it's a really long story because I kind of grew up in the car industry at the dealership. So I'm going to try to compress it as much as my wordy brain will allow me. So, Dad sold cars before I was born. He retired in, I don't know, 2009 or something like that. So he sold cars for 40 something years. Started in the 70s. So, as long as I can remember as a kid, when I had to call Dad, there, of course, I had to call the dealership directly. So I was calling the dealership. We went down there. We lived pretty close to the dealership. That building is still there, and it's always nostalgic when I go back in there because I was going in there from the early 80s, and then ended up working at that dealership. So I just liked the cleanup department. I always just liked um, how you could do really good work but make a mess at the same time, like things you couldn't do in your house or in your home garage, just
Yep.
custom setups, whatever. It was just a lot of fun, and then cleaning up, the bottle always, um, the products always needing to be put back in the same place. So I started there. Joe Trone, he was there since day one with the guy who owned the company. So family friends with the owner of the dealership was my family, and it was a big family. Joe's still working there. I worked at the dealership in late '90s to mid 2000s. He'd been there since '79, and he's still there. And he's just one of those guys that just likes being in the cleanup bay as well. So that kind of stuck with me. I worked in the cleanup bay in the dealership, then went off to college. I detailed while at college, and then I did over the course from '99 till present day. I did have a couple other jobs, but for the most part, it was working for a private detailer or the dealership. And the sense in the dealerships back then was a detailing sense. It wasn't what it is today. Very very different. I'm sure some dealerships are more detail oriented, but for the most part, they're just not. So that's kind of my formal training, because there wasn't detail training back then. The local detail supply company would stop by and have trainings, which I've done those too, but it really wasn't anything significant. Just get in this car and make it clean. And then you had a lot of picky salesmen or the cleanup manager saying, nope, you missed this, which, for me, I think was some of the best training for someone, 9, 10 different sets of eyes to look at your work, and then you go back and redo it. So that was a lot of not wanting anybody. I wanted to be able to clean the vehicle so nobody could find anything. That was kind of my challenge. And I saw a lot of people come and go through detailing dealerships. There wasn't a whole lot of detail shops where I lived back then. It was mostly just some guys did it on the side, or some guys did it after hours at the dealership or during hours at the dealer, whichever. So the detailing mentality was mostly in the dealerships. And then as time has gone on, it has kind of crept out of the dealerships and become more legitimate, detailing businesses. So as I started my shop in 2013, I left. So I quit at the Honda store running their detail department. Um, I started my own shop. I bought a house and had a baby all in the same year, which was
Wow.
which was really dumb. And we were doing mostly dealership stuff. I wouldn't call that, and the style I was doing it was the modern day, what people call paint correction. That's what we were doing to every single car. Of course, dealerships weren't paying for basic details, let alone these multi-step aggressive compounding steps. That's just what we did. So I would call that
Yeah.
pretty high level, but getting paid for a number 9 at McDonald's. That's kind of we were making a Gordon Ramsay level burger, but charging Five Guys prices, which I wouldn't call that. You're not getting paid. It's just wearing yourselves out for nothing. And back then, I had thick, hard paint. There was no there were DAs, but DAs didn't do anything. I mean, you could bear down on a DA and not remove a single scratch. These foam pads weren't very good, and everybody was getting off of. It was kind of a in between transition for me. We're going to less aggressive stuff, but yet it took twice as long now, so I just went back to the traditional ways with a rotary and a wool pad. So started the shop in 2013. Around 2015, we were starting to do more customers off, general public. And at some point, I'm realizing, why are we polishing these? I don't, it's just because that's for how many years, since 99 to 2013, I take a car up, salesman or the sales manager or the cleanup, somebody was looking at it and going, look, you miss these scratches, take it back. So, with each passing year, I was spending a little bit more time or getting more aggressive with removing the scratches. So it was just part of my DNA. I mean, there was no way that I could deliver a car up. And when I talk about, some of these guys talk about 80 and 90% scratch removal. There was no such thing as 80 to 90%. There was 100%. And I got it. I
Right.
was able to get it. Now, those really deep ones into the primer, sure, nobody can get those, but I'm going to blur them out as much as you can. You could always tell when a scratch has been polished because it doesn't look as sharp. It doesn't have that angle. It looks very rounded, and you can see it almost looks like it's been blurred out. Just like it's like almost like wearing the wrong prescription while looking at it. You can't quite define it as much. It's harder to see, which is the whole point. So those obviously, but don't really count them into the 100% removing of scratches. So I mean, especially down low from the mid doors down, we're laying on the floor, and that rotary, you could hear it getting bogged down. So that was anyway. And I know why guys say they don't go after 100% now, because they can't. Because I do truly think somebody may say we're not damaging clear coat by removing it. I think they do know that they are. Otherwise, they would go for that 100%. Which for me, if you get about 50% of them, I think you've gotten about as much as anybody's going to notice. If you go from that 50 to 100, I don't think anybody's really going to notice it. I mean, I will, but the customer won't. So anyway, that's just my kind of take on removing scratches. You go to 50%. I think that's you can usually get that with one pad, one pass, light polish.
Yeah.
Especially for me, I think hyper polish fits that bill. I know some guys struggle and maybe use a different, and that's fine, no judgment. But hyper polish is a true polish. It's aggressive, um, and you just use a more aggressive pad. You might have to follow it up with a black one and hyper after, but you're still using. I wouldn't call that a multi-step, but anyway. So as I'm doing a little bit less dealers, I'm still doing scratch removal, and then I realize, why am I doing this? All of this polishing work, and I'm just putting a paste wax. And I knew paste wax has abrasives on it because when you touch plastic, it turns white. So, and how long would this glow of the car last? A few weeks, maybe a month. I'm like, this is so much work for just a few weeks worth of, and we're talking about base coat, clear coat. We're not talking about single stage. Now the clear coat
Right.
wasn't failing, but the shine would just be gone. The rain would rinse it off. The solvents would evaporate out. The sun would kind of bake it off. And then it was a month later, they got it home. I mean, that's a lot of work for a month detail, you know. So I started, and I've known that dealerships sold paint protection. So I thought there has to be something out there now. It's 2015. There has to be something out there better than the dealership paint protection. And I know that stuff it was just a warranty. It wasn't actual paint protection. Even though we put something on, it didn't last any longer than the paste wax we were using or the spray, whatever the sealant, we were using. So I just Googled paint protection for cars. Opti Coat came up first, or at least the top. And I thought, oh, well, that's pretty cool. So I clicked on it. I looked at the website, and the website wasn't very good. It was kind of clunky. So I called it, and Maggie answered. Maggie, she's not, of course, long gone from there. I think she retired and moved away with her husband. But she sounded like the lady from Beetlejuice, the caseworker, Juno. You remember?
Okay.
With the slit in her throat? That's what Maggie sounded like. The real deep, gritty, raspy voice. And she's smoking, and then the smoke comes out of her slit in her neck. The first Beetlejuice, not the new one. And super nice. And she's like, hey, we have a Opti Coat Pro program. Because I saw Opti Coat 2.0, which was the consumer version. And then they said, we have Opti Coat Pro. And it was just Opti Coat Pro. There was no Pro Plus. So I was like, oh, it looked legitimate. As soon as I saw Opti Coat Pro, I just knew.
In person.
First time, what's that?
Using it in person, the first time you saw it?
The first time I saw it just online and just talking to Maggie about it.
Oh.
Yeah, I didn't have a clue how to use it. I mean, it was I've never seen any YouTube videos. I didn't have time for YouTube. I was working, doing dealer cars. I had to I was charging $1.25 a car. Now, granted, rent was cheaper back then. I didn't have as much equipment, but it took me 3 times as long. So,
Right.
somebody can say, well, my expenses are low, but if it takes you 3 times longer to do it, you're not making any money. There's no way. So I had to do at least 3 cars a day. Well, I can't pay. If I pay somebody, now I have to do 4 because I need to kind of recoup what I'm paying them. And I guess 2 of us could do 4 a day. 3 was a push. So, I'm working 10, 12 hours a day. And there was no time for YouTube. I can't learn on YouTube. Put it in my hands and I'll kind of practice it. I think for me, that's the best way to do it. Somebody explained to me, it might help a little. I could read something about it. It's just not going to work. So anyway, I think I convinced my wife to get the kit because, she handles the finances, and she's one of the best as far as finances. Now she tells me no a lot, which is not fun always.
She's good.
Yes, exactly. She tells me no. She doesn't tell me what I want to hear. So as far as bookkeeping between her and the accountant, and then saying, hey, can I do X, Y, Z? And if she says no, I don't want to hear it, but I know that's the right answer. And when she says yes, it happens so infrequently. I say, "Are you sure? Yeah, I can do this." I mean, like, "Are you sure?" I don't. No, I don't know if I should. I don't think I should. No, let's not do that.
Yeah.
Well, no, I can't. I can't like I can't dismiss her yes because and she's not being mean. It's just she's running her own business too, and she's just very good at what she does. And I don't give her enough credit. So I got the first kit. I might have sold it. I think the map pricing back then was 750 or 799 or something. The kit. I think the kit was 150. So I got it and I installed it, and I was like, oh man, this is great. This stuff is really good. I think I left a lot of high spots, just because, like, when do you wipe it off? Knowing when to wipe it off is hard because coming back. I mean, tens of thousands of hours of putting wax on, and every detail of things. The longer I leave it on, the better it's going to be when I go to take it off. That's stupid. That's not true. Once it's dry, it's dry. Can't get any drier. So I left it on there too long. I know, the school of, what is it, trial and error, um, was the teacher, but thankfully I practice on all those people that don't come in here anymore because I charge too much now. Eh, and I practice on their cars, so it's okay. They got good prices anyway. And then I tried to do it for dealerships. I got into a Subaru dealership, but these dealerships, it's not that they're closed, it's just they don't like to do anything any differently than they've already done. Unless it's sales, they'll change their sales tactics, one after the other, but their cleanup department, those guys are, they're just very ego driven, like the rest of us, and it's no, we can't, it's not, we don't want to get involved in that. I had no idea how to sell it, so that didn't really work out, but it's probably better that way anyway. So fast forward to today, I don't do any dealer cars. If I did, I'd charge them full price. Dealers don't really send them out too much around here anymore. And customers, from year to year, I might do a little bit less volume now than over the last 2 or 3 years, but profit margins are higher. So that's been my goal, to be able to raise the profit margin and do less volume, and then hopefully pick volume up. And not really, I don't know if there's much I can do about that other than what I'm doing. But it's just me, in the shop. I'm sitting here in the wash bay sideways. The car would be going this way. I'm kind of pointed, at the doors. But it's, this shop is nice. It's been upgraded, not by, I think, the Lord has blessed immensely, even though I've done about as many dumb, stupid, mistakes and decisions that I
Yeah.
could have possibly made. Almost like I'm shooting myself in the foot on purpose, and yet the bullet keeps missing my foot. And then I think that's just
Yeah.
because the Lord, I'm a complete moron. I have no idea how to run a business, and I just manage to detail cars. Just and you don't really have to be the best detailer. You just do much, much, much better than they could, and do it in a third of the. You'll be successful in detailing. And I'm sure there's many people that are much better than me. I do enjoy what I do, and for me, Opti Coat, has been, as far as a product company, and I don't think a product company for me needs. I don't want anything from Opti Coat, and I don't know if you're going to mention this later, but you and I are doing this podcast to give back, right? We're giving back to Opti Coat, not because the company deserves it or the people deserve it necessarily. It's because, for me, some people don't know how to ask for help. They're in their shop and they think, well, I can't do X, Y, or Z because it doesn't work. I have to keep using brand X compound because Optimum's hyper polish doesn't work. Well, it does. You don't know how to work it. It works better than whatever you're using currently. That's one of the reasons doing podcasts, to get the name out there, to pull some of them. I've said this before, to pull some of those guys out of their cubby holes, not to get wrapped up in any kind of drama or any kind of back and forth whatever. But to kind of get guys out of their shells, share some knowledge if you want to. If you don't, that's fine. You're not a gatekeeper because you don't want to tell anybody for whatever reason. That's your prerogative. You keep it to yourself.
Right.
Perfectly fine. Because I don't need your help. Jacob doesn't need your help. Some of the guys we've interviewed, they don't need your knowledge. We'll figure it out. I think one of the and I've seen that in the comments. Oh, man, you got to tell us your secret. You're gatekeeping. I think one of the best things that you can do as a detailer or any business owner, is kind of struggle. If somebody comes in and rescues you, you're not going to figure out how to do it for yourself. Maybe you kind of know how to do something. Like, for example, I went into Rutter's this morning to get my coffee, and there's a lady changing her tire, and she's using those stupid scissor jack. Those scissor jacks are the worst. I mean, they're the number one cause of
Yeah.
your car falling off. Anyway, I was like, "Do you need some help?" And she's like, "No, I think I got it." Now she did. Her dad taught her. She knew how to do it. Unfortunately, she missed the lift point of the pinch weld, and she was in front of it. So she was between the pinch weld lift point and the tire or the wheel well, and then the car lifted enough to almost be off the ground. She got all the lugs off, but couldn't actually pull the tire off because there's too much weight. Because the car was actually crushing the rocker panel. It crushed the rocker panel 3 or 4 inches up, so it couldn't lift it anymore. And the jack wasn't maxed out, but it was just impaling the. So and then I said, "Oh, how old is that spare tire?" And she was like, it looked to me like a 2015 or so Honda Fit. I don't know.
Right.
So I picked up her donut and I bounced it on the ground, and before she could answer, it's flat. There's no air in it.
Yeah.
So you would have done all this work and she wouldn't have been able to go anywhere. And so I took, my shop is literally, I could almost throw a baseball and hit Rudders from my shop. So I came here, I got my jack because I'm not using it stupid. And I took it back down, and then got that stupid scissor jack. I showed her where the lift point was, and then got the car up, put the donut on. I filled the donut with air. Had 5 pounds in it, need 60. So you would have been better off just being on your tire with the giant nails that she had. So she knew what she was doing, but yet those little, she called them nuances. Well, missing the lift point is not a nuance, right? It's the wrong way to lift the car. You don't want to lift the car not on the lift point, because you could lose your hand. You could have the tire come down and pop a lug nut and go right through your eyeball. You know what I mean? That's not a nuance. So there's some things we don't know that we don't know. But the best teacher for me, the best learning experience, is kind of just to be sitting in my own mess and have no clue what to do and how to get out of it. Especially as a Christian, I've made a lot of messes. I don't think any of them have been anybody else's mess that I got involved in. They've all been mine. So not being rescued out of it. And I'm not saying giving somebody a little bit of information is rescuing. I just think, as men especially, I think we need to be kicked when we're down sometimes. Not by other men, hopefully, just by life, whatever, Sometimes things just happen. Sometimes wives or husbands they just leave. You didn't do anything wrong necessarily. They're done. They rack up credit card debt because, I don't know, what are you doing? What are you gonna do? How are we gonna get out of this? Sometimes that stuff just happens. But I think as men, we need to be, there's nothing wrong with encouraging each other. And I say men because, a man's going to connect better with a man than another woman. Especially if it's not your spouse. I think the best woman you could ask if you're married is your wife. That's the best non-man that you can ask. And I don't take my wife's as serious as I should. So it is sometimes easy to just dismiss it because, of course she's going to say no. She always says no. So I think struggling is is a good thing. And I think it teaches. And I was just watching the Wright brothers documentary the other day. Oh, fantastic! Look it up on History Channel or Timeline History, hit something like that. It was really good. The struggle that the Wright brothers went through and how everything worked out. Really, really. And their company still they merged with another one. It's still going today, as far at least according to the documentary. I didn't look it up, but anyway, Opticoat for me has helped me become more efficient. And they're inanimate objects, Hyperpolish and O&R, and all those products, they're inanimate. They didn't speak, they didn't do anything, but I figured out how to play with them and how they play well with each other. And they've helped me become more efficient. I'm producing results 1,000 times better than I used to, and I'm doing it in a third the time. And that's because of, well, this isn't working. You know what? Let me switch to this product. Stop changing products and bottle hopping. I don't care if you want to use all Meguiar's stuff or all, I don't even know what some of these companies are, Malco. If you then fine, use them. I'm not going to, I'm not going to criticize anybody, but my point is, and if they're working for you, I guess, use them. But what ends up happening is like, I'll get this one, somebody will get this thing, try that. This isn't working. Let me try that. You're not struggling enough. It's the age of hit a button and figure it out. So I can there's 300 different chemical companies now where there used to be 4. Opticoat being really the main one for a while. At least Opticoat is the reason that modern detailing has become what it is today. And everybody's kind of, and it's not cheating. They are duplicating and kind of going that, oh, okay, yeah. Oh, you know what? Synergy. The products need to work well together. Well, who created that system?
Right.
Dr. G did. He did. He created that system. So anyway, Opticoat for me has helped me become profitable. Like I said, I could still be profitable with another company. But, at this point, experience has taught me that's not good. This product doesn't work. That's not going to make me better. These I'm going to stick with. If somebody were to create a system that's better than this, then I would probably transition into it, but that's not going to happen. So, and I'm open. Somebody wants to create a better system, then I'd use it. If a coating existed better than Opticoat, I would switch over to it, but it doesn't. It's not going to happen. At least maybe 100 years from now, it might. So anyway, that's kind of long story. That's pretty long, but not as long as it could have been.
You did great. And we talk all the time, and we're both talkers. So I know everything
absolutely.
You could have said. There are a couple points in that I wanted to kind of highlight because people don't maybe realize that you are in a town of 15,000 people. You've got bigger cities close to you.
Yeah.
But, we talked to someone recently that was like, that'll never work in my area. And I just love getting advice from you because you're not in, like, my metropolitan area is 400,000.
Oh, wow.
And, there's people who are in even bigger areas than that.
Yeah.
And they're hearing advice about being profitable, having your prices set where it benefits you as a business owner. The products benefit the customer. Everything's built towards serving the customer in a way that allows you to be sustainable. And I love hearing that. And I think part of why people tend to not want to switch from something, they say, I've been using this product, this process for 15 years. Well, part of it's because they got bruised and bumped into figuring out what they're doing now, and that works for them, and they don't want to experience the pain of growing again. And you also mentioned like someone might use hyper polish and be like, well, this or hyper compound, this isn't working for me. And you said, well, you don't know how to work it. And I think that the deeper truth inside of that isn't the philosophy that you have to figure out how to make that product work. Because you could say that about any of these different older technology types of, high abrasive compounds, polishes.
Yeah.
Well, you don't know how to work it. It's a matter of you have to open up your mind into saying, I want to grow as a detailer, and I want to, and this is the common theme that I've seen with all of these tenured installers with Opti Coat is they have kept an open mind. Okay, DA used to look like this. Now it looks like this. It's got longer throw. Give that a shot. Okay, foam. We have, the waffle foam pads now. We've got bevel pads. We've got different steps for different types of customer expectations or finishes. So I think that it's not so much about like, well, if I was talking to someone about hyper polish and they're like, I didn't have a good experience. And if I said, well, you don't know how to work it, their mind might go to like, oh, I have to really work with this thing. It's no, you have to look at the whole system.
Yeah.
What are you bringing to it? What are your expectations? Are you expecting it to, are you expecting to take it off like you would, some other polish or compound? I think that if you're growing with the technology, the pads that are out, the polishers that are out,
right,
you'll find, oh, I have to change my approach and save hours of time doing it,
right.
and, I see we talk, like every day in the group chat and we see, cars that are taped off and, gosh, we see a lot. And, I look at the products that I use now and compared to where I've been, and it's like I would never want to go back to losing an hour or two of time just prepping a car for something that I don't need to be doing. Whereas someone might look at that and be like, no, this is like the way that I do it. And I've gotten all the bruises and scrapes and scars to prove that like I came out on top using this process. And it's like, that's great. But now you can actually make it easier on yourself. And that's just growth in general, I think, as human beings. But I just wanted to mention that, town of 15,000, and you went from a process that like kept the lights on. You're doing all the dealer cars. You've got a system that works, and you were able to say, no, I want to take this another step further. I want to think about my future. I want to be able to hold my grandchildren. I don't want, my wrists shaking like, as aggressively as my polisher when it's turned on. So I think that that's really neat. And I think that that's what's important when we have conversations with people, or we look at different people who are in different places with their careers, or no, this is where, and I think there are areas, maybe it's like, no, I always use, I always handwrite things in Excel. It's like, well, is there another step you can take to streamline your business process or your polishing process? And I think that growth mentality is Opti Coat just caters to it.
Yeah, I think what I got from what you said about what I said was, I think, very well put, very upgrade to what I said, working the system, figuring out the system, the hyper system, because, specifically we're talking about polishing, but working the system, because there's 3 polishes and, I don't know, 4 or 5 or 6 pads. You have to know, knowledge is power. If you don't know the product exists, you can't use it. And then you just, I don't know how many times, especially on GM paint, I've got the black pad and I'm going to use hyper. Oh, it's hazed it. This is a black pad with hyper polish and I'm hazing the paint. Well, there's probably a dry spot on the pad, didn't know it. Maybe the pad's not as new as it could have been. So then I switched to a blue pad. Oh, that hazed it even more, So then I use this and that, and then, okay, here we go. I got it. I figured it out. That's, I think that's kind of what you were saying, working the system. That's how you have to figure it out. You figure it out until, now if you've exhausted your efforts and like, I can't get this, okay, then yeah, go ahead, switch. I don't care, whatever you want to do. Keep using the hybrid system. But as far as profitability is concerned, obviously everybody would say I would like to make more. Are we profitable more now than the beginning? Absolutely. just throw out some numbers here. The most I ever did was 180 some odd thousand. I think that was two
Yeah.
years ago. We happened to do a lot of PPF. Now I subbed that out. So we did a bunch of PPF that year. So that's probably why. Of course, I don't make much. So that's a big kind of, not a real number. Normally we're doing anywhere from 120 to 150 a year. And that's just me. I've had people help me here and there. But that's been the most, that's the average, 120 to 150. I think the first year was like 60,000, then 70, 80,000, something like that. And then we jumped, I think after the fourth or fifth year, we were hitting six figures, which, I think for me is fantastic. And I'm doing probably half the volume that I used to do, maybe even less than half. So, which is kind of like the whole point. But I was going to say this, kind of a caveat to, what's the number one question in these groups? How much does somebody charge? Now there's the other side where nobody asks for anything. I don't need any help. I'm not going to ask for help. Like, what do you guys charge for this? And then you get the guys that are like, oh, we can't tell you what to charge, which is actually true. If I tell you that I'm charging 275 for an interior, and you're in an area where all your expenses are triple or half, what good does that do you? I started charging more and more and more. So for me, kind of the principle I found is you charge as much as your customers are willing to pay and think it's competitive, and keep going a little bit more. You'll know when you hit the ceiling, because then you'll start hearing that's too much. And I hit that. I definitely hit that a couple years ago. Last year, I definitely hit that last year. I started charging a lot more. And then, of course, last year, everybody was down everywhere. I talking to people running into auto repair shops and beauty, barber shop, everybody was down 30%. So, I kind of that's probably the ceiling. Maybe we'll be able to go back up there again, but, you should be able to get, at least in most areas, I feel like $500 to $800 for an in and out detail. And I wouldn't say, 500 is probably a thorough, deep cleaning on the interior with no polishing on the exterior. And then of course, adding another 150 or so for polishing, and maybe another 150 on top of that, depending on, if you're on a coating like ultra shine or a sealant or something. But I think those are pretty standard numbers, and maybe LA would be different. I don't know. And you just have to kind of find your ceiling. So anyway, yeah, that's kind of a roundabout way of saying, you just kind of have to, and that's the same thing with like the hyper system, or even when I switched to O&R, it was very different. It slowed me down at first, because it's easy to just soap something up and rinse it off. But man, I just made a video the other day to send to my customers. I washed half of my car in under 4 minutes.
Yeah.
You can't wash a car. You can't do anything in 4 minutes if you use soap. It might take you 4 minutes just to get the hose out and turn it on. You know what I mean? So like that's
Right.
a huge waste of time. And I get it. Everybody doesn't have their own custom wash bay, but still, you should be able to wash your car at home with O&R in 20 minutes, give or take. Not a detail. We're not necessarily, you want to add wheels, it might be 5 minutes. Bug removal might add 10. Door jams might add another 5 or whatever. But we're washing the paint, because that's the most important thing. The wheels, they're going to get destroyed, coated or not. That's a lot of heat and brake dust, and they don't put a lot of clear coat on those wheels anyway, so it's just going to thin out no matter what you do. So the paint is the star of the show. So anyway.
Yeah. That's awesome. I think that
So
people need to hear you can have a profitable
mhm,
business with a family,
mhm,
bumps and scrapes and
yeah,
lessons learned along the way. But if you keep moving forward and keep your mind on, like you said, it's a gambit of things. It's
mhm,
innovating. It's also efficiency, not just like
mhm,
trying to add every single service to every single customer.
right,
Otherwise, you're
right,
gonna, scare people away.
mhm,
And then raising to a ceiling, I think is great to know that you are worth, like there's value that you're bringing into your
right,
shop, into your career. and a lot of people don't know that they can start going in that direction.
Yeah. So that's pretty much all I had to say. So I wanted to ask you, tell tell me about your journey, kind of from start to present day, and then include Opti in there, and however which way Opti was able to kind of enhance your business.
Yeah, definitely. Exciting doing a lot of question asking, getting asked questions. I
Fun.
started the first time when I was probably in like high school. The first time I heard about detailing, I never asked what it was. I just assumed that detailing meant putting details
Okay.
on cars. You
Mhm.
at AutoZone you'd see they had the strips that you could
Mhm.
put on like the
Yep.
Mustang, and I was
Yeah.
like, you see the the thin paint lines so that people put the feathering in, and
Mhm.
um
Yep.
you, that's when I was younger. I just assumed that's what it was, and so I just never really thought about it. And then uh you get a car, your first car, and you kind of want to take care of it, so you take through the car wash and all that.
Mhm.
So I always played racing games growing up. Video games
Mhm.
like Gran Turismo on the PS1, and
Yep.
the graphics looked amazing. It was unbelievable.
Mhm.
And we would, buy all the upgrades for the cars and make them the fastest and get the coolest looking ones. And I always loved putting, the burnt bronze rims on the cars. And so I always had a fascination for cars that looked cool. And then I was 18, and a friend of mine had worked in the detailing department at a dealership. And I moved around a little bit growing up. I was living in a smaller town at this time. I graduated high school and moved about 40 minutes away from where I grew up, town of um, in the thousands, I don't know, 7,000. And they had a dealership there, and my friend moved from detailing to the oil change. He's like, hey, they could use help in the detailing department. So I was like, oh, okay. He's like, come in and like check it out, sort of a deal, come and apply. So I went in and met the guys working there, a couple guys, a couple full-time, a couple of part-time high schoolers after school, and the buildings set back, this old, you know not a barn, but it was a legit building, but you could see all the
Yeah.
holes coming in, and just wasn't
Mhm.
wasn't the most well maintained building. But
Right.
they're cleaning cars, and you got the wash bay, you got the drain, and the big
Mhm.
tank with the deionized water, and
Yep.
it was very fascinating. So it's for a
Mhm.
dealership. Applied pretty much immediately, got the job, and started
Yeah.
working there. Worked there for about 7 months, just learning. Oh, and I love to mention that the first vehicle that I ever detailed, and this was out in the country, so naturally, was a vehicle that got traded in. It was a two-door, I think it was a 1500
Mhm.
Silverado, that I don't remember, but it was a pig farmer's truck, and it wasn't
Mm.
just mud in there. It was just nasty. Like, it was just the most disgusting truck you could
Yeah.
imagine. And they said, why don't you do that for your first one? And so I've
Mm.
got simple green diluted down a little bit, and I'm just going in there and going to town. So
Yeah.
sometimes people, when they bring vehicles to me now, they're like, I'm so embarrassed, it's so disgusting. I'm
Right.
like, you can't
Yep.
be any worse than the first vehicle I ever
Mhm.
detailed. So
Right.
that was a great start. And I remember
Mhm.
little lessons learned really quickly. Like, we would touch up bed liner. We did a lot of utility trucks. We'd spray in the bed liner, and there was a hitch that was rusty, and they wanted me to spray black paint on it. And my
Mhm.
mom's an art teacher. I grew up doing art and drawing and painting, but not a whole lot of spray painting. And I remember,
Yeah.
just getting up real close to it and spraying it, and it's just laying on so thick and it's gooping up and it's running down, and learned really quickly, you got to start further back and feather in. So
Yep.
it was like a whole new world for me. And I was there for about 7-8 months, and the manager ended up leaving, going to another job. And they asked me to take over managing the detailing department. It was the day after I turned 19. So I started doing that, and, learned about making orders and looking at the products and how to trying to I'm young, and you got salespeople that are like, I need this done now. I need this done yesterday. Or, hey, take a look at this truck. Like, the customer's like standing right there in front of you. Like, there's some stains in it, and it just got traded in, so it's not cleaned yet. Can you get the stains out? I'm like, yeah, we can get them out. And then like, okay, great. They need it done in like 2 hours. Well, I don't have anyone that has time to get it done in 2 hours. And so we do the best we can. We get it, you're like failing somewhere, either your personal expectations or the salespeople's expectations, or, the owner, or you're trying to figure out how to get more out of the people that are working there. And so that was a real, it was my first taste of management experience. And I look back with a lot of like, oh my gosh, there's so many things that would have either, like, if salespeople are like, we need this done now, it's like, no, you don't. Like, your sense of urgency has nothing to do with the actual rate of what we can get done. And defending people more than putting more work on them. So a lot of lessons learned there at a very young age. Worked there for a while, and then as I whatever I'm doing, I'm all in. So I'm there in the detailing department. I'm like, I want to get this better. I want us to do a better job. I don't want to use brushes on everything. We need safer washing practices. We're sending microfiber towels out to get washed by the same guys that are washing the shop towels and all the mechanic stuff, and coming back all, they're clean, but they're dirty, and they got stuff in them that are scratch the paint. You just learn more about how to really take care of vehicles. And just, I started to grow a bit of a discontent for the complacency of, we just want things good enough to get them out the door. And I didn't like that at all. But, I'm managing the place, and I'm trying to bring the quality in, which takes more time and more training with people that they just kind of want to clock in, clock out, like do the best they can while they're there, but they're not like trying to, make this into their final career in the detailing department. So that was my first taste into the world of detailing, and ended up moving after that. Moved around a bit. Everywhere I went, I always tried starting something with detailing. I would offer it as mobile, and I'd moved to Wisconsin. So I'm in Iowa now, in the Quad City area off the Mississippi River. And then I'd moved to Wisconsin, and while I was there, there was a guy at church that detailed boats, and I was like, oh yeah, I've done some car detailing. So ended up doing some maintenance boat detailing with him, learned some things there about boats. It was like my first experience with that. And then, was in Wisconsin for a few years, and, did some different things, did, coffee shop work, did some woodworking, and then moved down to Tennessee. And, again, same thing there. I would try and offer it on the side. And there were so many times that I wanted to get enough wind under it where I could, lift off and take it into doing it full time. I did that so many times, you start to think this is just not going to happen. Ended up moving back to the Quad Cities, and started working at a church as the music director, as the worship director. And I was there for 4 or 5 years doing that job. It was, 15 hours turned into 20 hours, turned into 25 hours, 30 hours as the church grew. And which is very exciting, very passionate about it. But I was always doing something on the side to make up the rest of that income. And so I play music on the weekends, and I would do some detailing. And then it was just getting to a point where we have 2 kids. We were getting ready to buy our house, and we bought our house. And then, my wife works full time, and working at a church and being in ministry means you're away for a lot of nights during the week too, with functions, midweek services, practices. And it was getting more and more difficult to juggle all these things that I have. And last year, I was able to go from, and it was a bit of a leap of faith, but I went from just offering a little bit to going full time into detailing. And then the unexpected happened. The way I was really able to jump into it is I landed a dealership client, and I started working, doing a lot of stuff for him, and we were able just to kind of take a step back and just start volunteering at the church, kind of as we had availability. Otherwise, we would just attend, and started building up that private client list on the side of doing some dealership details. And as far as dealership detailing, it was very reasonable pay. There were no crazy upgrades. Everything was pretty standard, but it was, he had a good understanding. He's been doing this for a long time, turning around a lot of wrecked vehicles, things that needed body work, mechanical work to, kind of have a reestablished title. And that means, detailing work after the body shop. So he took things that were kind of turds and turned them back into their former glory. So he knew, it takes more than just he said, I'm not looking for a high school, kind of wash kind of situation here. So he took a little bit of a gamble on me because I didn't have the whole arsenal back up yet. And then I was able to kind of jump in and build as we went. And I'm kind of sharing all this because, none of this really looks glamorous, but I think some people are really wondering, like, how do you even jump into this? And I think there's a lot of ways that you can, but for me, I didn't have a whole lot of extra margin. I didn't have, let me spend nights and weekends building this up, being a weekend warrior, because I've got a family. And not only do I want to spend time with them, but also they need me. So a lot of decisions some of them were calculated risks. Some of them were jumping off into the deep end. But one of the things that I have learned, and probably one of the reasons why I highlight this so much to guests that we have on the podcast, of what I see of what works for people, is people who are willing to look at, where am I? What do I need to do to grow into the next step? How do I stay current with what's working? How do I have my pulse on the heartbeat of the industry? I was doing work, and I was just a 1099 for this dealership, and he had another guy. I was basically the kind of the third in line. He had a guy who did exteriors really well, a guy who did interiors really well, and I was kind of the guy who, like, he'd made a post, and it was a mutual friend. I had detailed someone's car, and he loved it, and he saw that he made this post, and he shared it with me. Hey, I need some extra help because people are they take vacations, and I'm backed up on cars. So I was kind of coming in to help catch up. And so I was kind of, I can do exteriors and interiors. And so I was kind of that, like, in between. He'd send me the extra work that the other guys didn't have the schedule for. And during that process, you talked about how dealerships have the highest expectations because they're trying to sell something that looks perfect. So as opposed to just trying to do the best I can for private clients, it was, hey, this is my expectation. This is what I want this to look like. And I figured I could be in that season of being like, well, no, thanks. Like, your expectations are too high. I'm going to go to someone who pay me better, and, I can make more of a profit and stuff. And I knew I was in a growth phase of acquiring the right tools, working on refining my process into an actual sustainable business instead of like, I can fit this detail in this day or this afternoon and try my best. And I just really took a lot of the lessons of figuring out how do you actually properly restore plastics, getting into solution finish. What does a thorough exterior decontamination look like? And he would say, like, why don't you stop up at the other guy's shop and then he'll teach you some stuff. And I was thinking, like, I'm going to go to the competition and he's going to teach me how to do his job. But my friend actually has been a huge help of like, well, I use this tool and I use this product. And, you know, that's worked for me before. You know, like at the time I was using some AutoZone stuff, and it's like, yeah, I remember when I used to do that. And, you know, the detailer in me is like, well, I figured out what's worked for me, you know, like it's good enough. And I learned a lot of lessons by School of Hard Knocks. And, you know, and this is where it leads me to Opti Coat, because he had a couple of products in his shop that were Optimum and Opti Coat, Fair-X as an iron remover, and MDR, which is something that really, you know, blew my mind as a mineral deposit remover, like really getting onto really getting those windows and the windshield to look like what they're supposed to, getting those water spots out. And I remember being like, I got to get some of this product for myself. And like, mind you, this is me being told by the dealership owner, like, I want you to do a better job, going to the competition shop and just like being like, okay, what can I learn? You know, it never feels good to be in that kind of a situation. But I just took it as an opportunity to grow. And then I went to look online, and where I went to look, it was out of stock. And then I ended up going to the Opti Coat website. I'm like, oh, it is in stock. And so I was looking at some products to get, and I looked at becoming an installer. And I knew, you know, my friend was an installer for another ceramic coating company, and ceramics were coming a long ways. And for the longest time, I when I was like in the dealership world, it was really still rotary, and DA was out, but it was really low millimeter throws, and was not impressed with the tools that I had used at that time. And so, and ceramic coatings were like, when I was at the dealership, it was around like 2012, 2013, and they were nowhere looking into the interest of long-term ceramic coatings. You know, this is when it was popular in the high-end market and with installers, but it wasn't really blown up into the consumer market. And so I was just unaware, you know, for a lot of years. And getting involved with Opti Coat, I saw become an installer. I looked at the map. There was no one in my area. There was an installer's like, you know, in my mind, I'm thinking I'm not all that. I'm not, you know, I'm not like, you know, some of these big time 20-year, 30-year veteran installers, but maybe they'll give me a shot. You know, and I'd gotten business insurance, and that was one of the things they asked. Jason Schultz had called after I filled out the application. I kind of expected not to get a call, because I was like, oh, this is you know, a big deal company and all that. And I still think that, but I didn't think that little old, you know, Jacob Hemingway detailing was gonna shine through as the next the next installer getting signed on. So he just asked me some questions. I'm trying to put my best foot forward. Like, you know, I've learned a lot going into this full time, and you know, I'd love to be an installer in our area for Opti Coat, and they extended the invitation, paid for the installer package, got the products in, and then it just like so many things clicked, you know, and rinseless washing didn't compute with me. And I had, like, my friend did rinseless washing, and I was like, okay, it just seems like an innovative thing that makes you look cool. And you're like, no, like, you know, you can do this at home. And I'm like, yeah, but it's gonna scratch it, you know. that's just kind of where I was thinking. And then
Yeah.
getting my hands on hyper compound, and you know, even Dr. D has mentioned, like, you know, we've had some feedback with the compound, and now we're at revision 5, and I jumped straight into revision 5, and you know, going from some of the more outdated products, the things that I was used to, jumping into hyperpolish and hyper compound, and you don't have to tape off the car. It's not going to haze up your plastics, and power clean. The first time I used it was full strength on the car. I just like sprayed it on the rubber seal of one of the doors, and it just immediately dirt starts coming down. I was like, I've never seen that before. You know,
Yeah.
I didn't realize I wasn't really cleaning cars until now.
Right.
And then getting understanding how to use O&R, all the product line. It just, for me, was like, I just got to keep adding to this arsenal, getting the tire gel, OptiBond, being able to message Don just so many questions when I first started out, and he'd answer all my questions, and I'm like, what can I do to take this to the next step? And he's like, you know, you could get the gun with compressed air for OptiBond, and so I tried that for the tires and the wheel wells, and I was like, well, I just saved, you know, between the wheels and the wheel wells, like getting in there with a microfiber or a brush, I just saved 15 minutes there. And so I started releasing content because I'm trying to build up awareness for my shop locally, and also like I found these amazing products that just work amazingly. And that's kind of been the trajectory for me ever since with the podcast. And I'm not this 15-year veteran that's like, you know, it's time I start giving back something to the community. I just think that like these products have changed my ability to become a profitable shop. I didn't have to spend 5 years trying to try all the different ceramic coatings and try and learn what actually works and what doesn't, and look at my competition and where are they priced. And I was able to go from, you know, quote unquote Hercules 0 to hero in no time flat. Just being able to look at all of the installers. I can ask a question into the group, and this is what's worked for our shop, and just try this. You know, I don't have to spend you do have to put in the work yourself, but you don't have to put in 50 hours of the wrong work to get to the right solution. So that's one thing that I have loved, being able to jump in and be like, I just love to show that there is this amazing network of installers, of detailing professionals that use these products that are like yourself, having profitable shops where it's not just like, I get to do something fun that I like to do and make cars look cool and make cool posts about it. It's like, no, we're enhancing the lives of the people that are around us, and we're able to avoid, you know, so many of the products that we used back in the day at the dealership. I mean, people are still using those products, but I just remember like all of is just nasty stuff, oily, you know, toxic, and it's just like, well, that's just how it is. It's like, it doesn't have to be. And I love that about the Opti Coat line and the whole Optimum line. And like Tug, you said earlier, like we weren't asked to do this podcast. We both just had separately messaged Don and been like, it'd be awesome to have a podcast where we can have conversations with true professionals that are not in it to try and, you know, have some weird snake oil. You know, I see posts from people that are like, I only work with clients at X, Y, and Z. And it's like, well, you just see people that are burnt and they got like feedback from a customer, but they're tight on money. And so they're frustrated and they can't go back and do the work again. And I think that having a network of people that say like, hey, you're worth it as a detailer to charge what you're worth, to have the right tools that you need to succeed, And so that's where my content comes from. There's no kind of like an affiliate link. There's no kind of, because I mean, there's legal implications to that stuff too, which I'd never even really thought about until recently, just kind of learning more about the industry and some of the behind the scenes of who's doing what and why are, certain detailers advertising certain products. There's a certain exclusivity, obviously, to what I do as an Opti Coat installer. But I think that just kind of comes down to loyalty. And I think if you're aiming to have good relationships with the people that you work with, you're going to promote, you're going to want to do things right. And I mean, the amount of money that I've been able to make because of doing the podcast in terms of getting the right advice from veteran detailers. I mean, having conversations with guys like Scott Hare and David Fermani and Dr. G and Don and yourself has saved me having to try 15 different ways to come to a result. Or these guys they know how to do world-class detailing, and they know how to be practical too. They say, well,
Yeah.
if the customer wants the work done that if they're saying they want this done, this is what they're going to need to pay, because this is the amount of time that actually it's going to take. And I think as detailers, we really struggle, especially as we're lifting off. I think there's some calculated risks again. You can't, demand the pay of a 30-year veteran shop with the experience of 1 year, but you can also figure out how to, I am a legitimate LLC business, paying taxes, business insurance, and this is what this business requires. And it takes me putting the work into it, having the right products, the right tools, the right ways of, not causing damage. That comes with the experience. But I don't have to take 15 years in order to get to that place. And so, the expression accelerating into the future, that's a catchphrase with Optimum. I think that is not just the company accelerating into the future, which we can go into talking about that too, just seeing the growth in the past 2 years. It's just funny to me because when I got hooked into Opti Coat, I just saw things that were going great, and I just love to be a part of it. And I really am just Joe Schmo from Bettendorf, Iowa, as far as looking at why on earth are we the podcast operators? Well, we were willing and we're passionate about it, and we just want to give back. Not as we're not getting paid to do this. There's no salary of we need to come up with more content. It's been a great challenge to do this consistently while running a shop, and it's also paid dividends in terms of the relationships that we've built. We have text threads with some of the top echelon detailers in the industry, and I don't know what can't really pay for relationships.
No,
but you can make yourself available for it, and we want to highlight other people. And we know at the same time that there's a benefit to doing that. When I make a post about how ONR has benefited me and how easy it is to use and how much I love it, I get subscribers to my channel, I get views, and that's exciting as a business owner to create good content that helps me as well. So I'm not, unaware of that. But I see it as an opportunity to highlight some really, really amazing products that, I knew a little bit about the industry. I'm not, just completely unaware, just working at a, factory and coming home and wanting someone to detail my car, and, there's these new products, or these great tips and tools and tricks that you can use I'm in the industry and, have been aware of the industry for many years, and there were still so many things that I was unaware of. So I'd love to help continue to create a brand awareness. And
Yeah.
it's been really exciting to see the growth as well, to see a company that's doing well, to do even more, to learn about Dr. G's story, to see that, he had to go away because of his health issues, and to see him coming back even stronger, and just to see the legacy. I don't know of a more sophisticated way of putting what you put in the world, you get out of the way that you bless people. It's a blessing that comes back to you. And I think that we see that with Dr. G's career and his life. And that makes me excited to see how, he's able to be in the position that he's in, to have the great relationships with great companies all around the industry, and to continue to move this company forward. I'm really excited about the next, 5, 10, 15 years. And and again, I'm excited to not have this just be something that I tried to make work and did for a few months and then it didn't work again, So to anyone who's out there who's like, I keep trying to make it work, I think some things come and go in seasons. And I think trying to keep your pulse to, what does your family need and what's needed of you. I think one of the best questions that you can ask yourself is like, who can I serve? Whether that's extracurricularly, whether that's on the nights and weekends outside of your family. I think that if that's the question behind why you're doing what you're doing, not just how can I be profitable, how can I make more money doing this longer to make a good career for myself, I think that's a valid question. I think the answer comes more through how can I really serve people better. And if I'm doing $20 hand washes, maybe I could touch more cars and, be a benefit to some people that way. I can't sustain that. So there's some things in my shop I can't offer right now.
Yep.
I can't offer a monthly rate of a car wash. I'm not also built that way, and I deliver a completely different result. So I'd rather make a deeper impact into people's lives and be a part of their story, because cars are such a huge part of our story. We save up money for years to get these cars that are reliable for our families, or fun and inspire other people. And, I want to make the shop, I grow at the speed of cash. So I want to make it as sustainable as possible. I want to affect as many lives positively as I can. And I've been able to, I hope that I'm an encouragement to someone out there that is thinking like, I want to learn more, and I want to offer better results. I don't know how to have the confidence to charge more. You got to get around like-minded people that are successfully and consistently doing it, that have great attitudes, that have great character, and have the kind of traits that you want to see in yourself. And, I can't, my influence doesn't come from people who are detailing 16 hours a day and grinding and working 7 days a week. How do I get home to my family? That's what's important to me. And this has been a great networking community for me to be able to do that. So if those are your values and that's what you're aiming to do with your shop, this is, Optimum is such a inspiring and great way to get there. And the more you get to know the people in the group, the more you realize you're challenged to change your mentality, or you're challenged to know, okay, this has worked for this person for so long. I don't know if that's going to work for me. And just be honest with that about yourself, and just know that you have the right tools and support to be able to make that happen. So that's why I'm really appreciative. That's why I'm doing the podcast, to continue to meet people, hear their amazing stories, to be inspired to, I can push more in this area. I can get better at this. I can, oh, wow, I can avoid that mistake. I don't have to try to, use this polish with this pad on this type of vehicle and this type of paint. And then, just the little tips and tricks along the way. Like I did a Bentley, and it had, low low paint numbers on the sides, really thick paint on the hood, and if someone like Don in your corner, it's like, yeah, that's how they're made. It's like, oh, I'm not crazy. This isn't a repaint. I don't have to research this for 3 hours. Like,
Yeah.
take other people's experience if they're willing to give it, and just continue to move forward. So that I think that answers the question.
Yes, that was a really good story. I enjoyed it, and I heard kind of pieces of it over the last many months. But I think a story is how we kind of connect and get to know each other. Um, but I think you have a way of wording things that explain questions that weren't even asked. You know what I mean? Like I've heard you talk to some of our installers, and I was like, oh, he just said that I was going to ask that question, and of course I forget whatever the question I had. I forget it anyway. But like, okay, that's what I was thinking. Like you kind of bring it up, and you don't maybe don't say it in a question form. You might make it's in your comment that leads to your question, and I don't have that ability, so it's really nice to like when you're done talking, like okay. I think it's satisfied all my questions that I've had. You know what I mean? I
Okay.
think you'd be a good
Good,
writer,
yeah.
most likely. Which
Oh,
I usually
thanks.
talk better when I write than when I talk. It's at least it sounds better to me. I usually say something dumb. The one thing I did want to ask you though, and I know you kind of did touch on this a little bit, because you mentioned being part of people's stories, and not being able to offer the quick, low dollar stuff. So I think I kind of already know the answer to some extent. Well, what direction do you want to see your shop? Do you want to stay working out of your garage at home, which that would be awesome to be able to get up and you're already at work. But at the same time, do you want it to maybe open up into a nice shop somewhere?
Oh, that's a great question. My garage is very limited.
Okay.
Granted, and this is part of our story too. Like,
Mm-hmm.
let me think. 2023, we had Natalie, the younger of our two,
Mm-hmm.
and then the next year, we've been doing a rent to own for a house for like a number of years, 3 or 4 years.
Okay.
And the owner was a friend from church, and she had said, "Hey, at this point, I'm just going to lock you into this amount. Like whenever you're ready to purchase a house, you just buy for this." And we were still paying monthly, but if we kept
Mm-hmm.
paying into the rent to own, she was going to end up losing money on the sale of the house.
Okay.
Is
Okay.
the basic way that my brain understand it. Like she didn't want to sell it any lower, so it's just like whenever you're ready. And so we were, we were it was fine, but we knew it was going to be more expensive a month for us when we actually purchased the house. And like we were, rent was fairly comfortable. And
Mm-hmm.
so 2024, that, next year, we finally were like, okay, like if we don't do something here, like either she's going to want to do something else with the house, or we might miss out on this opportunity. I think that it's a great opportunity for us to be able to buy low and sell high, because I put a bunch of work into the house too, refinishing the floors, fixing the fence, and garage door opener, fan in the bathroom, fixed up, added a room to the basement. And it was a little bit of a like, well, shoot, if we buy, we could be stuck here if we can't sell. And I was working out of a one-car garage in the back. And the water came from the house. So I had a long hose going from the house to the garage. No
Mm-hmm.
plumbing out there. Basic,
Yep.
plug-ins that, the would
Yeah.
trip if I had too many things plugged in. Not heated or cooled. And I set up a tent in the grass next to the garage, because some of these bigger vehicles I couldn't get into the garage.
Yeah.
And so I'm doing a lot of work outside, and I do some mobile work too. So I'm kind of tearing into the grass a little bit over time, hope someone isn't so offended by the fact I'm using all these chemicals on the grass, because I just didn't really have any other options at the time. And it was like getting to a point where winter's coming. This is going to be really interesting trying to figure out how to make all this work happen in a congested alleyway with a 1-car garage.
Yep.
And people looking at us weird because I got this tent next to the house. And well, am I going to need to rent someplace? Or can we look at, moving out of this 725 square foot house with 2 kids, 2 dogs and a cat into something bigger, and then I can work from home there. So we were kind of weighing options, and I was like, man, we're finally comfortable with the, we're pretty comfortable with what we're paying. For the mortgage. And then, we just decided like it'd be better to find somewhere else to be. And I was kind of like, well, we should just like, so we're kind of torn. Like we what's smarter? What's less of a risk? Like just staying here where, but like we're tripping on each other. We don't have any room to grow as a family, all these things we're trying to figure out together. So, I'm looking into some shops. Nothing's really for the work that I was bringing in versus what it would cost to rent. Didn't make sense. And I know sometimes you just got to make a jump, but didn't just nothing, we look through a place and then maybe it would have fit and then someone else ends up leasing it. And then a few months later, we ended up being able to put our house on the market. Crazy. We're doing house showings. We're doing open houses on the weekends, and we've got pets and kids. There's messes all the time. We're trying to keep that cleaned up. We looked at 75, 100 houses, tours and all that, different places. So just working like crazy, trying to get, business off the ground, trying to fix up the house with the last minute things for the sale. Found a great house 1 town over, and it has a 2-car attached garage, nice big driveway. And so that was an amazing, it was great for both reasons. The house is twice the size. We made a great profit off the sale of our house. And then, so we that worked out really well. And, attached garage, built into the house into a split level. So nothing's freezing over the winter time. So that really kind of tied it over. Like, if I'm going to keep doing this, I need a better situation. Granted, the vision for my shop includes more than what I'm offering now. Being able to lift vehicles up, get the wheels off, do have the potential for undercoatings, the space and the height and everything. There's just things I can't offer. So I know that's not going to work forever, but I also know running into something just because you want it doesn't mean that you're necessarily ready for it or you have the work behind it. So I would love, the vision is that the shop is a place that you can, it's standalone. So, the way that we kind of protect our address is deposits. When I book things online, if they're able to pay a deposit, then they can get the address. And there's obviously there's times when it's like I feel comfortable giving this person the address, but it's not posted anywhere. And I would like to be able to have a brick and mortar people can come to with the visibility, so you can get that organic traffic. I think that's important. But I went from a mentality of like, in a lot of things in life, I can't possibly offer this unless I can do it 100% and the best. I'm a musician, and so I'm not going to release this song because it's not perfectly produced and it doesn't have all the bells and whistles that I hear in my head that I want it to have. Well, that's just not how life works. You have to offer what you can, do the best you can, stretch and grow into the next season. So I think that this is part of that. Like, there's some hindrances, and when I first jumped into it, there's, and I'm using some, what I would call outdated polishes and compounds. Like, I could not dream of doing that kind of work out in the sun. No way. And being able to switch to a system where it's built with mobile detailing in mind. You can O&R, you can polish, in direct sunlight. And, I've got a tent too for the hot sunny days if I am doing something pop up. But being able to switch to that gave me so much more of an opportunity to delay getting into a situation where it's like, oh, I'm paying $4,000 a month. Now I have to make $4,000 extra dollars a month on top of what I'm making, just to afford to be in the shop all the time. I'm able to be a little more choosy and struggle. There's some jobs that are definitely a struggle that's not fun doing at home, but I think it's better to do that and learn the lesson of, keeping your money into the things where it needs to go. A lot of it's gone into the building of the business, getting the right tools, having the right ad spend, having the extra margin is really important. So, but yeah, no, I don't think staying at home forever is what's in the cards for me. Some guys have made a great, wonderful career out of either doing mobile detailing locally, or some of these guys we talked to, they get flown around to go detail somewhere. So like, it wouldn't make sense for them to have a shop at home.
Right.
But the picture of having a place where you can come in and look at the maintenance line products and ask questions. And I was just stopping by. You're not going to get that. I'm not going to get I was just stopping by, unless it's a neighbor. And I've had a few of those.
Right.
I'm the pressure washer guy to some of my neighbors. And some neighbors, they'll come by and, oh, well, how much do you charge? And I'll give them a quote. They're like, that is way more than I was expecting to pay. Some of the older retired couples, and I don't have to feel bad it's like, I understand completely. And I know there's places in the area that will offer that, what you're looking for at that price you want. I'm not going to try and they can have that business, because it's just not worth my time.
Right.
Which I'm getting off into tangents now, but
it's fine.
Definitely something to be said with brick and mortar. I'd love to be at a point where I could actually own the space. I know leasing buys you time. I know leasing has so many, hey, something's broken, come fix it. But that's what I see in the future. I'd love to make it as much of a one-stop shop as possible. From the paint touch-ups to tint to, and I think there's some things that are just going to need to be handled 1099 PDR. Like I have a paint guy who lives, about 30 minutes from here, but I love recommending him to people who actually need a repaint. And it's great to know other people in the industry and what they charge, because sometimes people want a touch up and they're expecting it to be done for the materials and then, $100. It's like, well, it's going to take me like 3 hours to do this properly. And you could get this whole door repainted for $400. So you might not want to go with me, but if I'm going to do it, this is what it's going to cost. And then I don't have to feel bad for, I'm turning them away and they're going to take their detailing somewhere else. It's offer what you can and offer what it actually costs to get something done properly. But I've never had a customer that, when I give them my home address after they have booked a detailing with me, and they show up and they're like, I'm not having it done here. We're in a great neighborhood and people are very comfortable. I'm a very relational person, and that's what I lean on with business, is hearing people's stories and being connected with that however I can. And I just want to be able to do more of that. And then also working from home is great, but having young kids, it can also it can be difficult too. So again, it's pros and cons, but this is where I'm at. And but I'm so much further than I ever would have been if I tried to do all of this completely alone, have the alpha shark mentality, alpha wolf, and like, I'm going to figure all this out on my own and not going to rely on anyone for help. And just think you waste so much time doing that. So I love where I'm at. There's obviously, I think every business owner knows, like, I'm not where I want to be. But if you don't have somewhere you're trying to get to, you'll never get there.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think that's all I had. Do you?
Yeah, a little bit of
I think you.
get to know us.
Yes. And I think I don't know. You said you had to meet a customer.
Yep, meeting up with it's ironic because we'll see how it goes, but I'm meeting up with a customer, and it all started because he has spaces for rent. A mutual friend had said, "Hey, this guy, I
Okay.
toured a couple of his spaces, and he might have space for a detailing, where you could do some detailing." The buildings are
Okay.
super cool. It's off of a busy road, but it's set off the busy road, just past some train tracks.
Okay.
So as far as
Yeah.
like people seeing a Hemingway detailing sign, I don't know. But
Right.
one of the buildings he owns is a CrossFit building, and the other one's construction, the company that he owns. So could be a really great location for organic traffic that way. Paired with social media, people seeing photos of the buildings are really cool.
Yeah.
So I called him up. I just told him, I was just transparent. And I'm interested. And I called him a couple months ago. We never connected.
Okay.
And I called him back and, said, I'm interested, not aggressively. And he's like, okay, yeah, I don't have anything available right now, but in a couple months, someone's looking to move out. They might have a space that'd be great for you. So if you want to come check it out. So low pressure, but I have, especially going into winter, maybe this is a good time to do it. But he also said, "Oh, while you're here, I've got, I'll have you take a look at my cars. I got about, dozen vintage and,
Oh wow.
antique cars and sports cars and
Yeah.
stuff. So I'll have you take a look at that." So I think that's how so much of the connections are made, are just having conversations with people. And he's like, even if something doesn't come of the space, like, I'll have you do one of mine, and we'll go from there. So I think sometimes you won't. It's been a great year for me of looking back and saying, man, some of these connections would never have happened if I wouldn't have taken the initiative to reach out. And I think that as we're growing, sometimes we're hoping that, I hope someone notices me. I hope when you start adding value to other people's lives, you start seeing it pay back in dividends. And like my painter friend, I was trying to touch up a friend of mine's car. This guy lives in McCausland, about 30 minutes from here. I was touching up a car, trying to, fill in a paint touch up, and went too close, burned through the paint on an edge. I sanded through. It's like, you've got to be kidding me. And it was a whole mess because the car was repainted in that area, and by someone they didn't really get great information from. So I didn't know how thick the clear was, and thought I had more paint to work with. But anyways, I had met this guy because about a year and a half ago, I had just gone around town, just, passing out cards, pamphlets about coatings, and got his number. And then I called him up and was like, hey, so I paid to have it repainted, this door, and he did it.
Yeah.
And, but since then, I've had so many paint questions about touch up. He's mixed paint up for me. He's got the whole, camera, and he's got the wall of all the different colors paint with the computer software. So you never know. Just kind of keep building up that network as you can and developing those relationships, because you never know how it's going to help you. And now I've learned a lot about touching up paint from him. I feel comfortable doing that now. I know things to avoid. So yeah, as far as growing, I'd love to offer as many services through Hemingway Detailing as possible, but I might have some services offered, like you said, you might outsource PPF, you might outsource tint, but you want to be that connection through that person, instead of I don't know where you could get that rim touched up. You have a guy at least. So just kind of looking at that, I'm not a builder in this. You know, we meet some guys that they're like, I just have to build. I need employees. I need to build this thing. We need to be busy. We need stuff on the schedule.
Mm-hmm.
I
Yep.
I need things on the schedule, but I don't need them for other people yet. I'm not at a place where
Right.
I'm like, I need
Right.
to be the person that people rely on for an income. I'm not saying some people
Mm-hmm.
need that, but they really see themselves being that person for people. I would
Oh
love
yeah.
to be at that place, and I'd love
Okay.
to get there organically. So just kind of working with the
Yeah.
speed, like I said, the speed of cash, and knowing. And there's some things where you learn lessons the hard way. Like you want to offer a coating, you don't have it in. You might lose that customer.
Right.
So you learn, I need to
Yep.
kind of get ahead of this. I need to have coatings
Mm-hmm.
available on
Yep.
hand. I need to have extra non-warranty coating and supply. So if someone says, hey, I want this done, I don't have to, it's great if you want to do deposits.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's sometimes how you have to start out for coatings. But
Yeah.
realizing some of these services, you kind of have to build it and then it will come. You want undercoatings, kind of build.
Yeah.
A lot of my jobs, the new services that I want to offer, I build it as they come.
Okay. And going back to something you said about adding value, that is something I don't know if you and I talked about. It's maybe picked up something from a podcast. And I don't follow a ton of people because if we are going to go back to something I said earlier too, you don't want to cut yourself off from everybody, but at the same time, you don't want to ask everybody everything because you're going to get so many different answers. Ask the people that you trust. Um, and that should only be a few people. If you're trusting 42 people, that's a lot. There's no way you can keep track of who's actually giving you value. But anyway, one of the things I learned was give value. Obviously, we need to be profitable. I need to make money, but at the same time, what can I do to this car that I can say, hey, I did X, Y, Z, and they're like, oh, that's fantastic, but I didn't charge them for it. Like there have been times where someone wanted an ultra shine. Guy had his truck repainted. It was a Mako. They got paint everywhere. It's painted. They only missed like one or two spots. No runs. I mean, as far as that goes, as far as the skill of painter, fantastic. Really crappy quality paint. Hardly any clear coat on there. And you could just see it. It almost looks like, how like a puddle, you could see a puddle and it could be a foot deep. It could be 6 feet deep. Can't tell. But then when it gets down low, you can start to see like the rocks of the pavement coming up. Like you can see it. That's what it looks like. It just looks like things are just kind of popped up. And on my table here, it makes noise when you rub your hand on it. That's what the paint sounded and felt like. So anyway, he got Ultra Shine. I put Pro on it, and then I put Ultra Shine on. I didn't charge him. I didn't charge him $500 for prep wash, polish, and Ultra Shine, and I put Pro on it. And I told him about it. He was like, "Oh man, that's great. It's fantastic." So like stuff like that, giving value back. I had a Jeep here that was getting some interior work done, which I subbed that out, and was getting a hood redone. I had it for like 2 months because she was like, keep it till it's done. So she needed an oil change. She was going to go to Jeep Fest, so I drove it to the dealership because I know a bunch of people there, and I got the oil change. I didn't charge her for it. I said, if you want to give me a tip, fine. If not, that's fine too. I didn't charge her. She didn't give me a tip, but that's okay. It was a little like, oh, she didn't give me a tip. Okay, but why am I doing this? I'm just trying to add a little bit of value, making a little bit of a connection. This is more than just a customer. This is going to be a friend. So yeah, I can do this for a friend. Why not? You know what I mean? I made what I needed to. And that's the kind of stuff that I've never done before because like, oh, I'm not that doesn't make me any money. On the other hand, I don't even know what to charge to go sit in an awesome showroom for an hour and get oil changed. Like it takes 2 minutes to get there. I sat there for an hour. This is great. And actually bought her a little Jeep sticker too, which took 30 minutes. The parts guy had to go all over the whole place to get the price, then to actually run the car, and then come back. Like this is really dealerships.
Even he lost money on
that. I know. I forgot dealerships are not efficient. Oh yeah. So anyway, I just wanted to do something nice and not a pat on the back or like she didn't give me a tip. Okay, so what? You know what I mean? It's okay because I was I was trying not to. Yes, it did bother me a little bit. Of course, I would have liked a $50 tip or whatever. Um, but that's not. I don't want money to be the goal or the reason. So that's kind of why I'm kind of glad she didn't, because it I think it was a little bit of
Right.
a humility lesson. You know, it's not about the money. Like that can't be the goal. But yet you have to be profitable. And then that's kind of a hard lesson for me to kind of like, but I have to get paid for it. Because every time I fought for every dime, it's never been enough. I've never had enough. But you
Right.
know, when I started letting go of that, like, okay, okay, if I don't have anything on the schedule for 2 days, that's probably good and bad. Obviously, not having something on the schedule is bad, but if I was really cheap, I probably would be so full I wouldn't be able to see straight, and that's not good. You know, being that busy, and
Right.
then I can't hire quality people, and I'm not ready to hire anybody. I don't really want to. Um, if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't, I'm fine either way. So I think just looking to add value to someone's life, I think, like you said, is great, and getting to be part of their life, and hopefully they come back and tell their friends and their family, and you know, just continue to do that, repeat that over the years.
Definitely. Yep. I just 100% agree. Those are the things that stick with us, and they move. They
Hmm. Yep.
That's what people see and remember. And
Right.
I just love. There's two moments I love in detailing. One is when someone first sees their car and they go, "Oh, wow," you know.
Hmm.
And sometimes they don't even say that. They just go, "Oh, wow," but they mean it, depending on their temperament and their personality.
Right. Right.
You know, when people look at it and it's just like, this is what didn't even remember it could look like this. Looks better than when I first got it. It's like, well, hopefully, because when you got it, didn't have a coating.
Right.
You know, that's always my goal, is to make it look better than when they
Yep.
first got
Hmm.
it.
Right.
But my
Yeah.
probably the moment I love even more, which obviously we don't get to experience unless it's ourselves, is that next day when you go out to the garage or the driveway or on the street. You open up the door to
Hmm.
that car and you see the interior and you're like,
Yep.
oh, I forgot. You know, your mind's
Yeah.
used to seeing something else, but now it's a new day and
Right.
your car's clean.
Hmm.
And that's usually when you get the follow-up texts that say, you did an absolutely great job on this car. I'm so happy.
Yep.
And
Hmm.
being able to create that
Yeah.
moment for someone, I know how much it means to me. You know, you're going
Yeah.
to go, you're stressed out about life. You're worried about a million things. Well, you can get into a clean
Yeah.
car and you go, oh, I can handle it. I can handle it today. You know,
Hmm.
I'm not nervous to have someone in my car. I'm not, embarrassed. It's like the ultimate shoe and sock. You know,
Yeah.
it's the outside of the shoe when you have nice clean sneakers, and Jerry
Yeah.
Seinfeld has said that before in Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee, like your car is the ultimate shoe. That's, you want cool shoes. The ultimate shoe is your car.
Hmm.
Well, the
Right.
interior is
Right.
like your feet, and I think that's why it's
Yeah.
such a service to people, you know, and, the expression, like washing someone's feet, uh, serving them, being,
Right. Right. Right.
seeing that as something as such a lowly position,
Hmm.
such a servant like
Yep.
thing to do. I think that people are embarrassed about the interiors of their cars because, it's like a
Right.
reflection of their life. But when you can give
Hmm.
them that feet washing,
Hmm.
it's such a great feeling to
Yeah.
have served someone that way. And, it means a lot
Right.
to them too. So
Yeah. Absolutely.
I think it's such a great pursuit. Having a clean vehicle gives you confidence, and knowing
Yeah.
that it's properly maintained, that it'll last longer. The more I'm educated um, by guys like yourself or Don or Dr. G about
Hmm.
um, UV protection and how long it lasts, the half-life being 5 years, the more I learn,
Yeah.
the more I
Yep.
realize, like, oh, I really want people, as much as they want to be educated, I want to help educate them with how to properly maintain the car, because you spend a lot of money on it. You want it
Yep.
to last, and you want this
Yeah.
to look great for a lot, and you can. It's possible, and I think for a lot of years I just thought it wasn't possible because I just was, technology has come a long way, but even in the meantime, I was pretty uninformed, and it's like, well, I'll just take it to the car wash and vacuum it, like, because if I clean the interior, it's just gonna get dirty again. Well, gosh, like
Right.
getting it coated in the interior is gonna help keep the luster and the brilliance of your interior plastics and seats.
Yep.
And it cleans up so much quicker, and you can spend time with your family, and you can have a nice
Exactly.
car that looks clean and shiny,
Yeah.
and you don't have to like not touch it for a month because you're worried, like,
Right.
oh, I just clean, I'm worried it's gonna get a bunch of stuff on it outside. Well, you can maintain that super easily, and again, go spend time with your family, because a lot of times, like, the last thing that you have time for is to hand wash your car or vacuum out the inside. And if you do it, it's not like a fun process. It's not like, oh, this is my weekend project. And maybe you have that luxury, but our kids are too demanding to be able to allow us to do that.
Yeah.
And I want to spend time with my family. I want to, so that's where I'm at. I would like to have nice things, and
Right.
I want to be able to maintain them properly. Otherwise, it seems like a waste of money. And I think this has been such a great opportunity to have the best products available to make that sustainable for people in the future.
Right.
So you get the husbands involved and the wives, because it's good for the whole family.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, it's been fun. I've enjoyed it. Different.
Definitely. Yeah. We don't have we don't have to try and figure people out. We we already know each other pretty well at this point.
I know. Which is a great thing about technology. You don't have to meet in person. Of course, it is. You could still bond a little bit better in person, but this is the equivalent. If you live, 2,000 miles away from someone, the next best thing.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Awesome. Well, thanks for chatting.